Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. In today's video, I'm going to paint an eye of an aged person along with wrinkled skin around the eye using watercolors. As the wrinkled skin has to be approached very specifically in order to capture the likeliness of the wrinkled texture of the skin, most of the people finds it very difficult to paint them in first place. So I hope in this video you will be able to get some ideas on how to paint the wrinkled skin more effectively and efficiently without working too hard. So watch the full video and sink into the process. At this stage I am just drawing the outline of the eye very carefully, and I always prefer to invest time on drawing before starting to paint. And as you know, I mostly try to draw freehand because it will not only sharpen my skill of drawing, moreover it will also increase the hand-eye coordination of my mind, which immensely help while painting. Now at this stage you can see that I am going for a reasonably detailed drawing, which most of the people try to avoid while painting with watercolors. But it's just an individual choice. I just feel some extra bit of confidence while starting with a detailed drawing rather than a suggestive one, and most of the time I just paint quite detailed, so it helps. And if you are worrying about the pencil marks, then just wait and watch. Now I have started to work on the area around the eye by laying the base tone for the skin. The colors which I have used in order to paint the skin tone is Crimson Lake, Gamboge Yellow and an orangish tint of color, which is prepared by mixing Crimson Lake and Gamboge Yellow together. I have kept the inside of the eye untouched at this moment, and also preventing the flow of dripping paint to reach in the inner section of the eye by pushing it in the outward direction with my brush. Now I am just using the lifting off technique in order to create the highlighted areas on the skin below the eye. The paint underneath is not completely dried yet, it's just on the verge of drying, and this is the right time to do some lifting off. As you can see, I am gently moving my wet brush to and fro in order to wipe away some excessive paint from that area. Please don't move your brush vigorously, otherwise it may corrode the tooth of the paper. So always apply gentle pressure on the tip of the brush while doing lifting off. Now I have just started working on the area above the eye, which is indeed the eyebrow. As you can see that I have increased the values of my color, but that doesn't mean that I am using an opaque layer of paint in this area. It's just that I have increased the consistency of the paint by mixing a bit more pigment and less water. So the colors that I have used in this area is same as the earlier, which includes Crimson Lake, Gamboge Yellow and an orangish tint, which is prepared by mixing Crimson Lake, Gamboge Yellow and a bit of scarlet red. You can see that how I have maintained a good balance of sharp and blended edges in order to create the formation of initial wrinkle marks of the skin, and I have also let the wet colors mixed into one another to form a smooth transition of colors so that it doesn't look very patchy. Now I am just showing you in real time how I have painted the darker values of the skin, which includes the wrinkle marks. The area I am painting here has a very distinct value of tinted red, which makes it look more lifelike, and the color I am using here is a vermilion hue mixed with a bit of Gamboge Yellow and yellow ochre in order to dull down the warmth of the tint of vermilion. You can also see that how I am making the brush marks in order to paint the shadow areas of the wrinkled skin. And this is the trick to make something look realistic. It's none other than values, which helps to construct a three-dimensional illusion. So you always have to specifically keep an eye on maintaining the highlights, midtones and the darker values of a specific subject. As in this case, you can see that I have preserved some areas where you can see the lighter layer underneath, which is creating a great deal of contrast in the values, and the effect of light is also been established very prominently. You can also see that how I am making brush marks in order to paint the shadow areas of the wrinkled skin, and this is the trick to make something look realistic. In any realistic painting, capturing light becomes the primordial part of the painting process, and it becomes even more important for watercolor painting because it is a transparent medium where you cannot go with white paint over the darker values in order to create highlights. You have to preserve them from the very first layer of your painting. You can see that at this stage the wash of paint I have used is so light that you can literally see the pencil marks underneath it. Now I have just fast forwarded the process where I am following the same technique of layering in order to create more depth in the skin tones. Now you can see that I am using another darker value of skin tone in order to create depth in the areas of wrinkled skin. The color I am using here is same as the earlier. The only difference is that it contains more pigment and a little less water. One thing you can notice here is that how I am leaving certain areas of the lighter value of paint underneath this layer, which is helping me to create the reasonable contrast in between the values of the skin tone, and thus the texture of the wrinkled skin as a whole is looking more believable. As I said earlier, in realistic painting we use values in order to create pseudo dimensions which gives the sensation of realness in the subject. Now I'll just keep working in the similar fashion for quite some time now. And guys, if you have made it through this section of the video, then please leave a like on my video, it really feels good. The colors which I have used in order to paint the shadow areas underneath the eyebrow is a mixture of crimson lake and Prussian blue in order to create a dark purplish color, which is then mixed with a bit of sap green in order to create a smoky purplish color. Now as you can see, I am just working on the area of the eyebrow where I am building some smaller brush strokes in order to establish the texture of the edged skin in this area. The colors which I have used along with the orange hue is yellow ochre mixed with a bit of sap green to create a greenish yellow tint, which is creating more depth with the lighter tones underneath. Now if you are wondering that why the paint is running so much in the downward direction, then let me clear that I am working on an inclined surface of almost around 45 degrees, which might be a bit more for some watercolor artists, but I just love it this way. I love the feel of running paint and the excitement involved in the process of handling it. Moreover, an inclined surface is also beneficial for your back health in the long run if you are painting for long hours. Now you might be wondering that I work again and again on the lower section of the eye where I put a darker value of color. At least it looks pretty dark when it's wet, but it eventually ends up being much lighter when it dries. It happens because once the layer of the paint dries, it basically means that the water components in the paint just evaporates or soaked up in the surface of the paper, and we are just left with pure pigment which looks dull and washed out. So you have to use multiple layers of paint in order to gradually build that darker value. Follow the movements of my brush as it's the key to paint the detailed areas like this. Now I am just using the same technique of mark making as I have explained just before in order to paint the darker areas of the wrinkles while leaving the lighter areas show through, so just follow along with me. This is how we approach in watercolor painting. We start from the lightest light and gradually increase the values in order to create more depth and dimensions. Another important thing to notice here is that I have painted these areas very loosely while letting the wet paint mix into one another so that all the colors can merge together properly without much efforts. I have added another layer of dark purplish tone on the area just below the eyebrow in order to enhance the darkness of the value in that area, and I have also painted the inside of the eye, which includes the iris and the pupil, with a light purplish color. Now you can see that I am just making a few more small brush strokes in certain areas of the skin in order to enhance the values of the textured skin. You can see that I am moving my brush very spontaneously, yet in a very different manner each time, because I don't want all the strokes look the same and the whole area looks very plastic, because in nature everything is in complete harmony and symmetry, but equally divergent and chaotic. So we have to capture that chaos and the sense of visual variations of the skin texture in this particular case. I will just keep building the skin texture in the similar fashion before I find it satisfactory from my perception. Now I have just started working on the area inside of the eye, where I am building layers of paint with different values while leaving some areas for the highlights. The colors which I have used in this area is purple, orange and a bit of yellow ochre. You can also notice that I have just let the wet paint creating a great deal of transition in the colors. Now once the initial layer of paint is dried, I have painted another layer of paint, but this time with a darker value of color in order to create more depth in the area of pupil. And you can see how the area inside the eye has started to look more realistic. I'm going over with another layer of paint in certain areas of the iris and the pupil where I thought it needed a bit more contrast in the value in order to make it look more lifelike. Now I am just adding a few more small brush strokes on the skin around the eye and the other areas as well in order to make the skin texture look more assembled and united. All these small brush strokes may not look very reasonable at this stage, but once the painting will finish, you will be able to see that it's these small things which has consolidated the whole surface area of your painting, and it has allowed the painting to act as a whole. And moreover, it also helps to pull the eye of the viewer towards the painting. So keep an attention to this particular aspect as well. Now I'll just add a few darker strokes on the eyebrow and some other areas of the eye as well in order to enrich the values even further. Now I am showing you in real time where I am just working on the area below the eye by gently pushing my detailed rigger brush in order to create a few dark lines to depict the shadow areas of the wrinkled skin. I am also doing the same for the area adjacent to the eyebrow as well. Now I will work in the similar fashion in order to add more depth in certain darker areas. Like you can see how I am adding another darker value of purplish tint in order to make the area underneath the eyebrow and the deep wrinkle marks associated with it to make it look even darker, which will increase the overall contrast of the eye as a whole. Now I'll just add a few short hairs along with some longer ones on the eyebrow and both the eyelids in order to complete the look of the whole eye. The dark tone which I have used here is a dark value of purple mixed with a bit of burnt sienna and Prussian blue in order to create a color which looks almost like black. Now at this stage the painting is almost done and I am just tweaking certain areas in order to make it look more interesting and lifelike. I hope this video was beneficial for you in order to learn the different aspects of painting an eye. If it did so, then please let me know your thoughts, ideas and suggestions on the comment section below. Thanks a lot for your time guys. See you all in my next video. Till then, take care and happy painting.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to support my work, then please do like, comment and share my works, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon, which is very important so that you get notified as soon as I post a new video.